Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. We're doing my June reading wrap up today. I'm consulting the book and I don't know if you can tell, but I didn't read a lot this month. I only read 5 books this month. Or 6. I read 6 books, but one of them was a graphic novel, so it was kind of, I don't know if you would count it as reading a book. I mean, I did, but I don't know. Let's just get right into it. I did a 24-hour reading challenge to try and get through my June TBR, and I read 1 book in it, and I'm actually in the middle of it right now, and I'm at 14 hours, and I have the rest of today, so I'm not gonna finish it by any means, but we will see. So I'm doing this now before I finish, because I know I'm not going to finish the book, but I will say at this current moment I'm like 100 and something pages into Cress, and that's on my June TBR, so I started it but I didn't finish it. So we're going to talk about the books I read in June. Let's just get right into it. So my June TBR consisted of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, Cress by Marissa Meyer, Beach Read by Emily Henry, Stars and Smoke by Marie Lu, and Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. And then I had 2 book club books that I actually didn't get to. I pushed them to the month after because Red Rising, which I was doing with my best reader friend Sarah, she went on a trip to Europe for like 3 weeks or something, and my sister didn't read Love at First Book, which was our book club pick, so we're just gonna push it to next month. But anyway, with that being said, let's just get right into it. I read 3 out of the 6 books on my TBR, not counting the book club books because technically they're books that I want to read this month or last month, whatever, but I didn't get to them. So I'm not counting them as being on the TBR. I guess they're on the TBR, but I don't know what I'm saying right now. But anyway, so the first book that I read in the month of June was Stars and Smoke by Marie Lu. This is YA and it's like a YA romance. It's just like a, I don't know, normally she writes like dystopian, but I wouldn't classify this as dystopian. I would just classify it as YA romance. This is about a pop star named Winter Young. He is like the most popular pop star in the world, and basically he gets invited to be a special guest at the daughter of one of the most notorious criminals' birthday party. And Sydney, who is an agent with like an FBI group or like FBI adjacent group, gets hired to be his like bodyguard so that she can infiltrate like the birthday party of the daughter of the most infamous criminal, and they basically in this book have to catch him. And I love this book. I ate it up. I gave it a 4.25. I think that it was very good. I usually love Marie Lu's books. I'm not a huge fan of books when there's a lot of like fighting in them, and there was a lot of fighting in this book. I just find that I can't really follow it that well. It's the same thing as like with Ali Hazelwood's books. When I read her books and they're very like sciencey, it's just hard for me to follow them a little bit, I guess. But I still did really enjoy this book, but the parts when like she was fighting, it was just like a little bit slow for me, I guess you could say. But other than that, I really loved this book. I loved the characters. I loved obviously Marie Lu's writing. I love every book she's ever written pretty much. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this to people if they want like a cutesy YA romance with like a little bit of extra, because definitely the romance is subplot, because the romance in her books always are. So I think that the second book is technically not a sequel to this book. It's just like a standalone because the romance is not like linear, I guess. But I will definitely be reading the second one when it comes out on paperback because I have the first one in paperback. I don't want to get the second one in hardcover and ruin my set. But the second book that I read in June was the graphic novel, and it was the first volume of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, I think is how you say that. And I gave this a 3.5 because I didn't think it was long enough really to rate anything higher than a 4. So in my head, a 4 is like a 5 to me for this. So like it was really good and I really enjoyed it. Me and my friend Sarah actually read this in Chick-fil-A on one of our phones. We like got it from the library and we just read it the entire time that we were there for like an hour, and we loved it. I came home and I watched like the first few episodes of the show because I was like so into it, and I'm waiting for her to come back from Europe so that we can read the rest of it because my hold on the library book on the second one has like gone away now because she's been gone for so long, and I'm so sad because I just want to read the rest of Heartstopper. But I did really love this book, but I did give it a 3.5, not because it was bad, just because I think that it wasn't long enough for me to rate it anything higher than a 4, if that makes sense. I don't know, but I did really love it. I'm definitely gonna read the second one. They're just like so like sweet. I might actually buy the book. I don't know, hard to say, but we'll see. I'm going to Barnes later, so. This book is kind of like about 2 boys who fall in love, and Their names are Nick and Charlie, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that like TikTok sound where it's like Nick and Charlie because they're British. But that TikTok sound I think is from the Heartstopper show. But they're so cute. I love their little relationship. Like even though I got just the first book, like I can already tell I'm gonna love their relationship. So I definitely want more. So 1, I can finish the series, and 2, so I can watch the rest of the show. The next book that I read was Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welsh. I think is how you say that. This was also a library book for me, so I don't actually have it, but I might buy it because I liked it so much. I want to reread it on like the beach or something, so I might buy it. This book was so good. This is a YA. I don't want to call it a romance because it really was, like, it was a romance, but it also really wasn't. Like, I feel like the main character was really like finding herself. What was her name? I can't remember what her name was. It was something like, I remember that was like, oh, hey girl. Lena? I don't know what her full name is, but okay. So Lena is kind of like finding herself, and her mom just passed away, so she's going to Italy to spend time with her father and basically get to know like the place where her parents like fell in love, and she's kind of finding herself. She's finding Ren, who they are very much in love, and I love them so much. I want like 10 more books of them, and that is why I will not be reading the second book, because I'm upset. Because it's not about Lena and Ren, it's about a different couple, and I just want Lena and Ren. That's all I care about. So I probably won't be reading the second or the third one, but I will definitely be reading this first one over and over again, and I gave it a 4.5. Why I didn't give it a 5, I don't know, because I loved the book so much, but that is what I rated it. There must have been a reason. I don't know. But this book was also like half mystery vibes. Like there was a little side plot of like mystery going on, and I loved it. And I loved how like this book, I have never traveled to Italy. I've never been, but I feel like I learned so much about it from this book because they talked so much about like the sites and like the architecture and the history behind some of the art, and it was just very interesting. I really genuinely enjoyed reading about it. That was a really good read. I'm very, very satisfied with that book. Gave it a 4.5. It was so good, and I would recommend it, but I will not be reading the rest of the series, even though I loved it so much, just because it's not about Lena and Ren. That's all I want in my life. Moving on from that, I read Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Caraval trilogy, and like part of the pre-trilogy to Once Upon a Broken Heart, also by her, obviously, and I gave this book a 4.25. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I thought it was a very good sequel, like a very well done sequel. And I honestly kind of loved this one more than the first one. I don't know. I really loved Caraval when I read it, but this book, I feel like you just find out so much more about like the characters and like some side characters, and you find out a lot about Legend in here and introduces some new characters, and I just really loved them. The banter in here was so good. I loved Tella. She was a great narrator, and it was just so good. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. This was obviously, like I said, about Tella, Donatella Scarlet's sister. She was our narrator for this book, and she was the one playing the game Caraval, and it's the same game, but it's very different from the first one. Like the game is very different. It's very interesting. I don't know how to explain it. It was just good, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 4.25 just because there was a little bit in the middle where like I couldn't pick it up, and it was one of the characters was going to like have tea with someone, and it was like 3 chapters long of them having tea. And if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about, I think, but it was literally like 3 chapters long of her having tea with someone, and I don't know, I wasn't into it, and I couldn't pick it back up. So like, I don't want to read about her having tea with someone, but I don't want to skim it because I feel like I'm gonna miss something. So I had to wait until I was really in the mood to read this book, and then I binged it, and it was so good. Then I read Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This is just a contemporary romance, very short and sweet. It's only like 270 pages, so it's less than 300 pages. I gave this a 4. I really liked it. I thought it was cute. I don't remember a ton about it because I did read it in one sitting. Like I literally sat down, read it, and then I finished it in like 3 hours, so it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's about a girl named Sophie who is about to get married to a guy, and her best friend hires a professional objector to object the wedding, and it's this guy named Max, and she sees how well it works and she wants in on it, and then they become this little like objector duo, and it's so cute, and I love every second of it. And their relationship was kind of fast, obviously because it's a short book, but it was still really good, and it was really sweet, and I liked it a lot, so I gave it a 4, and I would recommend it. It's a very short, sweet romance. It was a good book after Legendary because Legendary is a fantasy, and it was very heavy, very mental. I don't know if that's the right word. Like I had to think about that book kind of, and this one I did not have to think about. I just read it, and it was good, and I really enjoyed it. and it was a good palate cleanser, for sure. I know I said that when I was picking my TBR, but this is definitely a good palate cleanser and I genuinely really enjoyed it. So the final book that I read in the month of June is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I just finished this like yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago maybe, I don't know. I loved this book so much. I gave it a 5. It made me cry, so I gave it a 5, basically, is how I see that. But this is a contemporary romance book and it's a pretty long one. It's like 500 pages and, or no, it's not, it's like 400 pages. And genuinely, this was so good. Like, their relationship was so good. Like, I don't know what it was, but the writing was so poetic too, but it was poetic in like the best way. There was this one picture that I sent to my boyfriend and oh my gosh, I really want to read you this quote. It's not a spoiler because it's like, I don't know, it's a romance book, but it's a quote from the book. I took this picture of the book because I was like, I need to send this to my boyfriend because it's so cute. And it says, "The love stories sold us the wrong thing. The best kind of love doesn't happen on moonlit walks and romantic vacations. It happens in between the folds of everyday life. It's not grand gestures that show how you feel. It's all the little secret things you do to make her life better that you never tell her about. Taking the end piece of the bread at breakfast so she can have the last middle piece for her sandwich when you pack her lunch. Making sure her car always has gas so she never has to stop at the pump. Telling her you're not cold and to take your jacket when you are in fact very, very cold. It's watching TV on a rainy Sunday while you're doing your laundry and turning her light off when she's fallen asleep reading. Sharing pizza crusts and laughing about something the kids did and taking care of each other when you're sick. It isn't glamorous. It isn't all butterflies and stars in your eyes. It's real. This is the kind of love that forever is made of. Because if it's this good when life is draining and mundane and hard, think of how wonderful it will be when the love songs are playing and the moon is out." It's so good. Like, and that was in the male's point of view. Like, that was the male main character's point of view. Ugh. I love him. I love Justin. He's such a good book boyfriend. He's honestly jumped up to become like one of my faves. I love him so much. And genuinely, the characters in this book went through so much on their own. Like, they both had like trauma and hardships that they had to go to that I felt like I was reading a story, which like obviously I was. It's like I felt like I was reading a story. I felt like I didn't just get a love story between like two characters. I got a story about a group of people and these two characters were falling in love in it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I'm describing it and I loved it. I loved every second of it and I was eating this book up. It was so good. I was listening to the majority of it and I like the listening experience was so good with this book. Like, genuinely, I loved this book so much. Please go read this book. It was so good. Let me actually tell you what it's about. So Emma is a travel nurse and she travels for work, obviously. She's a travel nurse. And basically she sees this Reddit post about a guy who's talking about the fact that he is cursed and every woman that he dates goes off to find their soulmate after they break up. And Emma's like, I have the same curse. Let me just DM him and see what happens. And they start talking and they basically agree that they should fake date each other to see if they can break this curse and then go off and find their soulmates after they break up. So they agree to 4 dates, 1 kiss, and a breakup. And a lot more than that happened. It's so good. I love this book so much. It was a great way to end my reading month because I ended the month on such a good note. Like, this book was so good. Ugh. I can't stop talking about it enough. I loved that book so much. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into like some analytic stuff. The only books that I read on my TBR was Just for the Summer, Stars and Smoke, and Happily Never After. So it was only, like I said, the 3 books. That was 4. The 3 books out of the 6 that I was supposed to read. And I had 4 that were over 4 stars. I had 1 that was 3.5 and I had 1 5-star this month. I read 3 or 4 romance books. Yeah, I read 4 romance books that were like the main plot. I read 3 YA books. I read 1 graphic novel and I read 1 like romance subplot book. I read 1 fantasy. So that is the breakdown of the month. Okay, well, I know I didn't read that much this month, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed watching me talk about the books that I read this month. I hope you enjoyed hearing me rant about how much I enjoyed the books I read this month because I really had such a good reading month. Let me know if you guys read any of these books. Let me know if you guys want me to read the 2nd and 3rd book in the Love and Gelato series. I know that a lot of people like them. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that it's not Lena and Ren. It just makes me feel sad. But anyway, with all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Mwah!